Well, indigenous peoples in the Amazon and indigenous territories, I would say that for the last 30 years have played perhaps one of the most important roles in buffering the expansion of deforestation and illegal activity. So they have been central to that. More than just buffering the deforestation, we need to recognize that indigenous peoples, and we should include traditional communities, riverine communities, they play a key role in governing large territories, right? In managing territories, a key role in production of a range of biodiversity products that enter the market, although invisibly, but they're an important part of that equation. And overall, in providing a different perspective on how can we relate to the Amazon, to Amazonian forests, in a way, that is more, integrated and respectful, right, of the role that the environment plays, in society. More broadly, I think there is a limit to the role that they can play in deforestation. A lot of the prevention of deforestation that happened in the past few years fell on the backs of indigenous peoples, right? But that model in which the territories are kind of buffers to deforestation is also has limitations. Right? So today, indigenous people who have been able in the past 30 years to sustain and protect their territory. So if you look in a satellite image, you're going to see islands of forests and conservation surrounded by areas of degradation, right? But that model is now being challenged because that erosion, that pressure that is coming from the outside is eroding indigenous areas, right? Whether through illegal activities in logging or land grabbing, whether through illegal mining, a number of problems, right, that are putting a limit to that. So one of the key elements that we need to think today is how do we guarantee the advances that we have made in the past 30 years in providing rights to indigenous peoples, right, and giving them, the territorial recognition that is helping to prevent deforestation. How can we sustain that today, which is being challenged and eroded, including by the Brazilian Congress, who wants to change laws that provide that rights to them, and eroded by illegal activities. So how do we sustain that, which is a priority, but also extend that type of protection beyond indigenous areas, right? So one example is the indigenous park of Xingu, which is a classic example where if you look at the park, and there are many other examples like that, you'll see a very well protected area. But the entire surrounding of the Xingu is degraded. So the problems that are happening outside are now filtering to the inside. So there's a limit to which we can rely, right, on the stewardship of indigenous people to protect the forest. We need to sort of extend that governance model in a way that protection also happens outside those areas. And in that way, we also contribute, to support their rights in a healthy territories for them.